All right, I am thrilled to welcome Julie Clark to the Sasaga podcast. So Julie, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Woot woot, I'm happy to be here too. always happy to speak to lovely Helen. Yes, I am Julie Clark. I'm a registered nutritional therapist, an EFT practitioner, kinesiologist, a Reiki practitioner, all sorts of things to do with health and well-being, which is my passion. I've got two lovely children who I didn't have until I was in my 40s. Uh-huh. So I'm now 50 and I still have young children, which keeps me busy and challenged, shall we say. But yeah, basically I'm in the UK and I very much focus on energy for busy mums who are stressed out and their kids. Helping them raise healthy, happy kids is one of my things.
That is so fabulous. And clearly you are a Wonder Woman. And I know that for your 50th birthday, you dressed up as...
Well, do you know what? I thought, if you can't be Wonder Woman when you're 50, when are you going to claim it and own it, right? And I was thinking, I'm going to have a themed birthday party. What am I going to dress up as? And I just had an epic moment where I just thought, I'm going to be Wonder Woman.
Brilliant.
You know?
Brilliant. I absolutely love it. This is a great theme to get us started with. So tell us about your word of the year. So we're recording this, for those listening in the future, we're recording this towards the end of 2021. So Julie, what's been your word of the year?
Well, I decided that my word of the year would be easy. Everything should be easy. And yeah, it's quite interesting when you really think about that word, right? Because we do like to make things hard for ourselves, don't we?
We do. It's very strange.
Yeah.
So what have you been realizing?
Every time I thought about that word, I thought anything going on, I just thought it was a great reminder, because I just thought, just make it easy, Julie. For goodness sake, just make it easy.
Mm-hmm. What has been an example, if you can share, where you had something that was complicated or you were making it complicated and you then realized that you could make it easier?
That is such a great question. And I also want to know what your word of the year was. But this might surprise some people, given that I'm a nutritionist, but because I'm very precious about the food in our house and the cooking takes a reasonable amount of time, because I am precious about it, always cooking from scratch and everything. I've been so busy dealing with all the the stressed out people, because of the current situation does tend to make people stressed. I decided to actually have a recipe box delivered, just to take the pressure off.
Oh, wow. So,
I know, it seems such a counterintuitive thing for a nutritionist to do. Right. But the good thing about it is I found a healthy one in the UK called the Mindful Chef. And it means that if I'm really busy, because of the ingredients turn up, I don't know if you have these sort of things in Japan, but the ingredients turn up in a box with the instructions. It means that anybody in the house can cook it. It doesn't have to be me. So therefore, I made the meals a little bit easy.
Right. That's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. I hear quite a bit around women who are discovering how to make the meals easier, because it can be such a lot of pressure. You know, you're eating every day, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah. And especially when it is, is your thing and you want it to be as good as it can be. Yeah. I'm not just going to order a takeaway when I'm busy or grab, a frozen meal, because that just is not me at all. But this was a good compromise. So yeah.
Right. So you get like the ingredients, and then you can make it making it yourself. So
yeah. And it takes away that question of, what are we having for dinner? I do like meal planning. I am a bit of a meal planner, because I don't like that pressure and the stress of what we having tonight, especially when the kids are going, Mom, what's for dinner? And you're like, I don't know, I've been busy all day.
Brilliant. I love that. So ease. That's a great one. You said what was my word of the year was ripple. Yeah. Ripple has been rippled. The ripple effect, because I wanted to, and if you think about it as well, ripple has that kind of sense of ease in it as well, because I wanted to make things like gentle, easy, rippling
out. Go with the flow.
Yeah.
Love
so
that.
talking about flows and cycles, this is a great lead into the success cycle. So of the 4 phases around self-care, around planning, around communication and productivity, what's the one that jumps out at you that you'd like to talk about today?
Well, any one of those subjects I could talk about, but self-care.
Right.
Definitely self-care, because people just don't do it, you know?
Right.
Just don't do it. They know they should, but it's another thing on their to-do list. And it's just a total change of mindset to understand that if you do self-care, everything else becomes easier, right?
Oh, there's a theme here. Right. Okay, so that is a good point though, because a lot of people do think, oh, self-care, it's something I should do or I have to do. And then when you feel like you don't have time, that's very often the first thing to go off the to-do list.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, we both work with women that are very busy and successful. And there is a lot of guilt around taking that self-care, because they often feel like they should be using that time to do something that they consider is more important. Do you get that with your
audience? Totally. Yeah, and the guilt or considering self-care or taking time off to be lazy or you know, things like
lazy,
that. Yeah. So that's a big issue. So what have been some of your experiences with that, or if you have any stories of clients that you could share where they've made changes in that area?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to say that self-care wasn't always on the top of my priority list, because I was one of those people that was very busy, type A personality, very competitive driven. And I burnt myself out by not doing self-care, and I learned the hard way. So I try to help my clients not learn the hard way, because when you get flawed with, you know, like chronic fatigue and things, that is literally your body saying, I've had enough of this constant fast lane. So yeah, I've had that experience, and I have to say it's still something that I have to work on. I'm not perfect at it. I still have to check in with myself and go, hang a minute, you're doing too much again. And I think especially in a therapist type role, there's that kind of element of caring for everyone else and forgetting about yourself. I think that's very, very common in this arena.
And I've heard about that quite a bit recently, because we're in the ongoing pandemic. I've heard about people who are in sort of caregiving roles as, you know, therapists, coaches, whatever, and they've learned how to coach and help other people, and then they also have to remember how to do that for themselves. So what's been your experience with that?
Yeah, just that give. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So when you focus on your own self-care and you don't treat it as being selfish, a selfish act, and you can see that by you being in the best shape yourself, you're able to help more people. That is, when you realize that, when you truly realize that, that's a monumental light bulb moment. So I don't know if you've experienced that, but I definitely have experienced that.
Right. Have you got any examples of what you've done and what's changed for you in terms of prioritizing self-care?
Yeah, exactly. So I live by the sea, which is lovely. I'm so grateful to live by the sea, although I did orchestrate that because that was a goal of mine. And I know goal setting and things is key to some of the work you do as well. But yeah, had a goal to move by the sea. And I find that the sea helps with lowering stress, feeling good, etc. So I always make time to go walk along the seafront at least 3 times a week, non-negotiable. I pretty much do it every day, actually. But yeah, at least 3 times a week, non-negotiable. Sleep is also non-negotiable. Yeah, I do not let anything get in the way of my sleep, unless one of the kids is ill or something that I can't control. Yeah. But I'm not going to stay up late for me time and then be knackered, because that's not me time. That's not right. So that's the kind of things that I've done. is made sure that I put in time for things that I really love to do. So the things that really bring me joy and happiness are just scheduled into my week. And everybody in my house just knows, oh, mummy does that on a Wednesday night, or, Julie does this on a Tuesday morning. It's just that's how it is. But you have to schedule it in, because if you don't plan it right, it doesn't happen. So
yeah. And then also there's the when other things come up. So I mean, that's kind of a little bit related to the issue of boundaries. So when you scheduled something in, and yes, okay, kids getting sick, that's a kind of different thing. Anything else where you can share about like boundaries? Because I know this is one that quite a few of our listeners struggle with, especially work related. Like they think they're going to have some time for themselves, and then urgent things, or seemingly urgent things.
Seemingly urgent. Yeah. Is it really, really urgent? So with my clients, I get them to, most of them are, like I said, busy mums. They've got young kids. So there is that element of feeling like there just isn't enough time.
Yeah.
But we talk about how many minutes are in a day, and we break it down to, really, we're talking about 2% of a day just for you. That's all we're going to do. 2% of the day. Can we do 2% of the day? And then it doesn't have to be, because some people think that self-care has to be something huge, like go and get a massage or have a spa day, or it can literally be sitting quietly with your favorite cup of tea and your favorite mug, and just looking out the window in the garden or something, right?
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be this massive thing. But scheduling in those little, even if they're little moments throughout the day, is really important. But yeah, going back to boundaries, oh my goodness me, this is such a huge subject, isn't it?
It really is.
Absolutely massive. And the only person who can control the boundaries is you. And what a lot of people do is they think that the work or the boss or the family or whatever it is are the ones that, I haven't got time because of them, because of this, because of that. But actually, it comes down to you deciding, truly, are you worthy enough to take that time for yourself?
Right. And there you've really hit on it, haven't you? Are you worthy enough? So how did you, because this is something that those who've been listening to the Sassaga podcast for a while will be kind of getting this message already. But if someone's listening to this and thinking, what do you mean? How is that related to worthy? Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, what do you mean? Well, it all comes back to the fact that if we don't want to be with ourselves, it's very easy to keep ourselves busy, isn't it? Because then we don't have to deal with anything with ourselves. So that's the first thing that we need to check in with. And then we give our time freely to things that we think are worth it, and we find the time for the things that are most important, don't we? And it just comes down to, are we important enough ourselves? And when we really think about it, if we're not allowing ourselves any time, that's normally what it comes down to. In my experience with working with my clients, is that they don't feel that they're worthy enough to have that attention. And then that's where the guilt comes in and all of that. I swear there's a switch that goes on when you become a mum, though. I know not everybody is a mum that's listening, but I swear that there's some kind of a guilt switch that goes on when you have a baby. And understandably, when the baby is completely helpless and totally reliant on you, then that's a different phase. But so many mums I see, they get stuck in that phase, and they don't come out of the other side of it. And then you get the ones that go into a bit of a shock when the kids are grown up and left, and they realise that everything about their life was to do with the kids. That's another subject altogether. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have more questions coming, because I also I mentioned to you earlier, one reason I wanted to invite you to the Sassaga podcast is your expertise around nutrition, around hormones and those areas. And at the beginning you mentioned, EFT and Reiki and all of these fabulous things as well. So, but so that we want to make sure we're focusing in the time that we have. What would be your top advice around nutrition for busy women, shall we say? What should they keep in mind?
Yeah, well, one of the things that happens when women get busy, and is it just women that we're speaking to, or is it the men as well? Because they're just as bad.
Yeah, bad. We have male listeners as well. There's quite often there are guys who read my women's articles in online magazines and things like, actually I read your article,
yeah, because they can relate.
It applies to people. It's just that, just to help with the focus a little bit, I talk about women, but whatever is helpful to people.
Yeah, so one of the first things that tends to happen when you get super busy is that you don't prioritize your nutrition at all. It completely goes out the window at the time when you need it the most, because you are busy and your body's doing a lot and you're asking a lot. There's a lot of high demand on your nutrients. We go the other way, and then we forget to eat, and we rely on caffeine, and we grab stuff to keep, to try and keep our energy up. That's the most common mistake I see. Or the other one is that people will eat pretty well at their main meals, but when I look at what's happening outside of those main meals, that's when it's all gone wrong. So, when you're looking at, they're eating quite a good breakfast, lunch is okay, dinner's really good, with the family and everything. But then when the kids go to bed, then all the stuff comes out. And throughout the day, it's kind of littered in there. So there's two camps there. One, people forget to eat and they just grab stuff, or they do think that they're eating well because their main meals are good, and then it's not till I get them to write it down. And this is such a good exercise to do. For 1 week, just write down everything you eat and drink and just have a look and see how much of that was actually natural and good for me. And I don't think it's rocket science. We know that good quality protein, good fats, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, are going to give us our body the things that we need. But how many of us don't have that variety when we really, really look at it? I think, to do a food diary is so eye-opening.
Right. So that I like that you make it easy, because, I've heard about, tracking your food and how much weighing everything, but you're not talking about that. You're just saying in general, what are you eating, so you can get an overall idea.
Yeah. And the other thing you can do, if you want to take this one step further, because I quite like visual stuff. So I get my clients to write their food diary, and then they have 3 color highlighter pens. One is green, one is it doesn't matter what the colors are. The red one, we have always red and green and kind of an amber color, the middle color, like a traffic light. And I get them to just go through their food diary and highlight how many foods do you feel are green, as in, was it a whole grain? Was it natural? Did it come from the ground or a plant? And then the red ones that so that the glasses of wine and the chocolate or whatever, read those out. And then the ones that you think, well, actually they're not too bad, do those in amber, and just have a look at a week. What's the spread there? Because you're looking for 80% of that to be green.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
and then
great.
The other 20%, it doesn't matter. I mean, I love chocolate and cake and biscuits, and I like a glass of wine, and I don't ever deprive myself of those things. Right. I don't have them every day, and I'm not obsessed with them, and I don't eat them and then feel terrible about myself. Oh my goodness me, what a terrible person I am that I ate that. I just eat it because I enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. And that's something that I also have heard in our communities as well, is that often the women will be very kind of busy during the day, get to the end of the day, and they'll reach for those kind of unhealthy snacks or the wine or things like that. So what's your recommendation around when people have got into that kind of habit?
Well, first of all, they've got to be aware of it, because until they're aware of it, they can't do anything about it. And then not to do the worst thing is to do the all or nothing thing. The worst thing is to go, right, that's it. Tomorrow, I'm going to start this amazing, healthy plan, and it's going to be perfect. So I'm going to get rid of everything, because you can't sustain it. And it's too much pressure, So literally just saying, even if it's just one thing. So if you'd got I don't know, give me an example of what somebody would kind of have as a ready meal in Japan, for example. What sort of thing would you kind of grab that wouldn't be good?
Okay, so people could grab the instant noodles, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
That would be,
so, yeah. So say that you had the instant noodles and a glass of wine. Would people do that? Okay.
Would do, yeah.
Okay. So say you started with one thing and you literally just added, okay, I'm going to have a piece of fruit with this noodles and this wine, just to start the process, and just do it one step at a time. Because if you're already in that rushed and busy, do you know what I mean about that all or nothing thing?
Yeah,
it never works out, does it?
Yeah. And what you're going with is easy. I love it. Just take a little, make it easy.
Yeah. Do you have sugar snap peas in Japan?
Yes.
Like much too. Do you have those sort of things?
Yeah.
So something I will tend to get my clients to do if they're in that phase of the noodles. In fact, I had a client recently that was in the instant noodles, and all I got her to do initially was to eat some raw sugar snap peas with the noodles.
Right.
And then she started to realize that actually the sugar snap peas taste way nicer than this noodles. Right. And she progressed to, I gave her a recipe for healthy noodles that you can easily make up in a jar so that you've got them, and then you just pour your water in. And then she got to those, and then eventually she started going, I really like cooking, and started making things from scratch. Yeah, but very, very slowly, easy does it step by step. She didn't go from, right, I'm seeing a nutritionist now, I'm perfect, and I'm, cooking everything from scratch, and it's absolutely Instagram fantastic,
Brilliant. I love that. This is going to be so useful. Just the whole idea of just recording for a week using that traffic light system that you mentioned, and then easy ways to make gradual changes. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
The other topic that I was really interested in is hormones. And I know this is like a massive topic. So I don't know if you could just sort of pluck out of thin air, if there was one thing that you were going to recommend to women, or that you want women to understand about hormones, what would it be?
That is such a great question. And the one thing that people don't necessarily understand with hormones is that the liver is the place where they get processed. There's two things that I want you to know. The liver is the place that they get processed, and your adrenal glands, which are on your kidneys and deal with your stress response, also deal with your sex hormones. And when we're in a phase of our life where our ovaries are not necessarily producing that hormone response, the adrenals would normally pick up the slack and keep things balanced for us. But if we're stressed, then it can't do the both. It can only deal with the stress because that is a life-threatening, urgent situation. So it can't do both. So we can't be stressed and balance our sex hormones from the adrenals. And if the liver is working really hard because you've got excess fats going through there, the sugars that aren't good for you, medicines or alcohol, caffeine, that all has to go through the liver. If the liver's dealing with all of that, it can't recycle the hormones at an optimum level again. So one of the easiest ways, if you're starting to notice a hormone problem, and I think most of us women do tend to know where we are with our hormones, is to have a look again at the food diary. How many of those red foods are your liver having to deal with? How much stress have you got going on? Because once you understand how the stress response works and how that affects the thyroid and your blood sugar metabolism, and then ultimately your hormone balance, you cannot possibly expect to be hormonally balanced if you're stressed out. It goes back to self-care. Right.
Wow. Love it. Okay. So in terms of then practical ways that people can deal with this is the looking at at what you're eating and then reducing stress.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some simple things that you can do. So, for example, when estrogen starts to lower in the body, it affects our ability to use our fluids properly. So it affects hydration. So when estrogen levels drop, we almost get like a drying up effect. Oh, it sounds hideous, doesn't it? But do you know what I mean? And
just
so
to help people, listeners understand as well. So how do they know when estrogen drops?
It will just happen through like perimenopause or menopause. Naturally, it will drop.
So
estrogen
as people as they're aging, it's going to drop anyway.
It will naturally drop. And the first signs are things like dry skin, your joints hurting a bit more because your joints rely on the fluids and things. So one of the best ways that you can counter that is to just drink enough water. Simple, right? Just drink enough water. But what do busy, stressed people do? They drink loads of caffeine and they drink alcohol.
Right. Yeah.
The opposite of drinking water and staying hydrated. I think in Japan, one of the good things that you've got going for you is that you have a diet that tends to be higher in plant-based foods and soya-based.
Yeah.
And that is it's a phytoestrogen itself. So it mimics the effect of estrogen in the body. So it can be really, really good when the body's naturally losing estrogen to be able to use those foods. So there are quite a lot of studies done showing that in Japan, unless they've gone over to a more Western style diet, if they're on a traditional Japanese diet, a lot of them don't experience any hormonal issues at all. How amazing is that?
Right. Yeah. So that's then if so women as they're aging, really focusing and going back to the more traditional Japanese diet, more soy, edamame. So that's edamame would be a good one to have as your little evening snack as well if you're looking for something like that.
Yeah, if you're going to add something to your your instant noodles, the edamame beans would be perfect.
Yeah.
As a starting point, and then swap that one for some water, and you're halfway there. In fact, you're more than halfway there at that point, aren't you?
Yeah. Brilliant. Easy. I love it so much.
Just make it easy. Yes.
Absolutely.
Just eat more vegetables and drink more water.
Love it. So great. So as we're starting to wrap up this episode, what else would you like to share with our listeners today, Julie?
Oh, what else would I like to share? Good question. I think like when we were talking about self-care and things and coming back to your your pillars that you've got in your method, your cycle. I mean, you came onto my group and spoke about cycles and stuff, which is brilliant. I think being in awareness, first of all, and just trying to look as if you're a person from the outside looking in on everything that's going on in your life, and doing things like the food diary and just having a quick look at the colours can be really, really instantly helpful. And then, literally looking, am I making myself a priority? I think is the first question. Brilliant.
I love it so much. And where can listeners who would love to know more about you and what you do, where's the best place for them to find out more about you?
So you can find me I'm normally on Facebook, because I am on Instagram, but I'm not very good at the Instas, I have to say. Just sometimes the technology as a 50-year-old kind of, we're still catching up, aren't we, Helen, with some of this stuff? The Facebook, I'm down with the Facebook, but you can find me on Facebook, which is Julie Clark Nutrition, and my website is Julie Clark, nutrition.co.uk. So that's dead easy. And then I have got a link that I can send you, Helen, I think I might have already done, which helps people with their energy. So if they are feeling that their energy is affected, it's completely free, and it just goes through 5 key areas, some of which we've touched on today, just to focus on to accelerate your energy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great. So we'll link to all of that in the show notes, so it's nice and easy to find. Love it so much. This has been great. So thank you so much, Julie. I've been waiting for this time, and actually I'll be doing a little introduction to this as well, but we're now in the same time zone, so it's so great that we have an easy chat. I love it so much.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And make it a brilliant and joyful day.